to actually bring you all some value tonight that can be used actually tonight as you go into the week. So,
Yeah, a lot of times we don't realize how much our momentum or even the lack of momentum is decided on Sunday nights. I know when I had a 9 to 5, I used to hear, and I would even read in certain articles where they would say that Sunday night was, for many people, the most heaviest part of the week. And because they were loathing all that would come with their job in the coming days. But listen, whether you're building a business together or building a business not together, and however that configuration is happening, the point of the matter is just about life. I mean, just, yes, building a business and all that, but really just about your life. So much of your momentum, your perspective is really shaped as you go into Sunday night. And so we just want to say, listen, you can really think about your week tonight and set yourself up for the kind of momentum that can really, really set you up to really have a
win.
healthy perspective.
Yeah, to win. And we know that this journey as married entrepreneurs is not for the faint at heart, which is why we decided to go ahead and say, you know what, let's go ahead and share something that we've been talking through, thinking through behind the scenes. And we were and are planning on sharing it on an upcoming podcast episode. So we said, why don't we just go ahead and go live, and we'll use this as a pop up episode so you all just get it a few months early. That's all good. It doesn't hurt to have the goods earlier than later. And so we want to share this with you. So those of you on IG, you can go ahead and tag your people, tag your spouse, tag your folks, who other marriedpreneurs who would need this type of encouragement. We're talking about the harvest cycle on tonight. And those of you on Facebook, you can go ahead and press share so other married entrepreneurs and those who are building whatever phase that you're in, we're all in a harvest cycle. We're going to break it all down for you real quick in a few moments so then we can go on about with the rest of our evening.
No doubt.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just start recording.
Yeah.
Um,
So just listen, you're part of the virtual studio audience. And so go with us, enjoy the ride. And yeah, you're going to get this early. So
yes, let's go with it. Okay. And
what's up, everybody? This is OL Buckley
this is Sway
of
Buckley.
marriedpreneur.com. Yes,
.com.
this is where we help mission minded married entrepreneurs, those who want to get more clarity, generate more income, but above all of that, they want to leave a lasting impact.
Yes, married entrepreneurs come to us to sync high level systems with laser clear strategy to build out a solid structure for their legacy and to do that profitably and peaceably. So, whether if you are a spousalpreneur or an indiepreneur or a couplepreneur, you are absolutely in the right place. You may not even know what those are, but that's all right. We're going to break it down real quick. Spousalpreneurs are those couples where one spouse is working the 9 to 5 primarily and the other spouse is focusing on building the business. And the indiepreneurs are those spouses where both of you are building individual businesses with even within that marriage. Okay. And then you have the couplepreneurs. The couplepreneurs is where both spouses are working together to build a business together as marriedpreneurs. So whether you're the indiepreneur, spousalpreneur, couplepreneur, or if you're like a combination of those, that's absolutely possible as we are. You are definitely in the right place. This is really focusing on legacy for legacy builders. And you can let us know in the comments which one you are. If you're a spousalpreneur, you can put S, drop an S down there. If you're an indiepreneur, you can put I in the comments. If you are a couplepreneur, drop that C. And or if you're a couple of those,
If you're two out of the three, which you probably are,
maybe, I don't know,
it's
like
likely.
everybody's on their own journey, right? We have been all three of the three, not at the same time, but right now we are indiepreneurs and we are couplepreneurs at the same time. So we run individual businesses and we have a business together as well, which is helping married entrepreneurs to launch, grow, and scale their businesses as legacy builders. Now, today we're talking about that, something that is often overlooked by many people, and it's an easy way to get discouraged, which is why we're coming to you right now on a Sunday night. We're like, let's bring this to them to encourage you all as you get ready for the week, because this is a very strategic time in the week as you position and prepare to win. And that comes by being intentional. So we're not going to talk a lot of business strategy right now. We'll save that for during the week. But right now, we really want to get to the mindset and the spiritual aspect of building business. And we're going to start with a very biblical principle that is so real and applicable or applicable, however you want to say that, to us today. And so we're talking about the harvest cycle for a few moments and talking about how this really works in our business building and legacy building.
Yeah, so we're all familiar with, I believe it's Ecclesiastes chapter 3 that talks about that there's seed time, or to everything there's a season, right? But then, in another text of scripture, it'll say that there's seed time and harvest for as long as the
Genesis.
earth remains. Genesis, yeah, that there will be seed time and harvest. And so while that particular text is speaking specifically about the material earth, that's why it says as long as the earth remains. However, there is a figurative truth to that we can definitely look at and apply to how we're building and how we're living our lives on a day-to-day.
Yes. So when we talk about the harvest cycle, I want to give you a real quick illustration. Maybe you can relate. I remember in grade school, I guess it was like the science part of grade school, we were to plant a bean as a seed and watch it sprout over time.
We were talking about that because our school, we planted them inside of those, remember those little cups that held the applesauce? Mott's applesauce. We would put the dirt in there and then put the bean in there.
Okay. We didn't do applesauce containers with ours, but we did. I think ours was like little styrofoam cups. So it had a little more depth to it. So we would have the little seed, right? Well, did you take yours home?
No, we left ours in the windowsill at the school.
Okay. And we may have done that once or twice too, but I do remember taking mine home. So I was able to show my mom. So I remember putting the seed, like getting the dirt, right? That was the beginning part. And then planting the little seed inside of the dirt and waiting expectantly every single day. Like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Right. And we had to just keep watering it, making sure that we put it in sunlight. And then over a period of time, right, we began to see a little green something pop out, maybe it's a little white something pop out of the ground, but there was out of the soil, but there were some things that were happening. I remember one time, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I remember one time like digging through the dirt to see like, well, what is going on down there?
You're trying to rush the process.
I was like, what is going on? And I didn't see a plant just yet, but I did see that the seed had a coat on it. And then the underground, what was happening was that coat was actually opening up and loosening as what the life that was coming through the seed, it was making room for that. So we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I just want to use that illustration real quick. So as we're talking about the harvest cycle, we know this is definitely, side note, we're definitely in the city. So you may just hear city,
all kinds of noises
going on, but that's all right. We're going to keep it going. So you may be able to have had this experience as well. Now, when we think about that scripture talking about seed time and harvest, oftentimes, well, we know in that scripture, it was really God was talking about the actual physical seed and harvest, right?
Yes.
But that's a principle. And it's a principle that can be applied to business as well, as many principles can be. But this one in particular is what we're focusing in on right now for a few moments. And so there are cycles to this harvest thing. Many times we'll speak to couples and they'll be like, oh my goodness, we have this big idea of what we want to build, right? It may be a building or outreach, it may be something global, awesome, just amazing impact. And that's really the picture of the harvest. That's the vision of what is to come. But there is a cycle even to leading up to that part. And there are many cycles that lead up to that part. So we're just going to break down this seed, time, and harvest to encourage you on your journey, regardless of what phase you're in one of these phases. And we're going to break it down into the seed season. Then we have time. And then there's the harvest season. So let's start with the seeding season. And that's broken down really into two steps, that seeding season.
Yeah. So there is the tilling and then there's the planting. And so on one hand, you have the thing that's going to go into the soil, but then you have the preparing or the preparation of that soil. So when you think about the tilling and the planting, a lot of times we think just about what it is that we're going to plant. And so even in a very natural agricultural sense, it's like, okay, if I want, these tomatoes, and I'm going to put these tomato seeds into the ground. But here's the thing: any skilled, you don't even have to be a farmer. You could just be a person with a home green thumb. If you understand potting and soiling and putting it in, just like we were talking about with the bean, then there's this aspect, this thing that needs to happen, and that's called tilling. And even if you go to a construction store today, they actually sell something called a tiller. And this piece of machinery, what it's designed to do ultimately, it's designed to prepare the soil to receive the seed. Well, how does it prepare the soil to receive the seed? The first thing it does is that it loosens the dirt or loosens the soil. Because anytime you're going to drop seed into soil, that soil has to be able to receive that seed. Otherwise, it's not really sowing or planting the seed, it's laying the seed on the top. And seeds don't grow on the top. They grow inside and down deep. And so what has to happen is that that soil has to be loosened
in a dark place.
In a dark place, and then those things, or an obscure place, and then those things that are in the soil that often just get in there through the course of natural life, rocks, stones, pebbles, those things have to be extracted out, pulled out. Even weeds, those things have to be pulled out. And so before you can put good seed in the ground, you have to pull out anything that would hinder, choke, strangle, not allow there to be a connection between that dirt and that soil. Excuse me, that seed and that soil. So a tiller literally prepares the ground. All right, now that's in a literal sense. How do you do that, or what does that look like as you two are building, even in a figurative sense, just talking about life? Well, then that would come down to tilling. And so what we did was, through careful thought, we came with an acronym I want to share with you guys as it comes to tilling the ground, Till. What does that mean? First, the T means time in, time out. What do we mean by time in, time out? That's time of work, time of rest. The assumption would be keep working, keep working, keep working. And that's often how the contemporary, the modern world works, the current entrepreneur culture works. Keep working, keep working. So they say things like sleep when you're dead and those
Team
kinds
no
of things. Team no sleep. That's not something to brag about. That's not something
we used to brag about.
Yeah, that's actually, and I'm not going to go into it right now, but that's actually arrogance. That's actually you thinking that your efforts in and of themselves are going to produce said results. But here's the reality: if you don't, work in it, you also have to rest from it. And so that's the T. Then you have the I, and this literally means initiate growth. Initiate growth. How do we initiate growth? Well, we initiate growth by preparing with systems. And so tilling has systems. And so systems literally prepare to receive whatever it is that you're planting. Then you have the first L in the word till, and that is learn. Learn what you don't know so you can collapse time. If you're not learning in this time of seeding, then what's happening is you're bumping your head through trial and error. Trial and error always extends time. But when you're learning through coaching, etc., you're collapsing time. And so we want to be learning. And then lastly, we want to loosen. The last L, loosen. And this literally means to loosen your grip on what doesn't work and get a handle on what is proven. See, a lot of times we want to sort of create our own system for something that we're doing that's unique. You can do what you do that's unique to you, but there are proven systems that help you to do that and do that the right way. So we want to make sure that we're having a time of tilling.
Yes. So that's the first part of the seeding season. You have to till the ground first. We got to put that dirt, like when I was talking about the little seed that we planted as I guess in elementary school, we actually had to put the soil in first. That was a part of the process. That was actually the first step of the process to make sure.
In one sense, you sowed the soil. In one sense,
yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Because if no soil was there, then what is it gonna? What is it gonna grow into? Like, how is it going to grow? Right. What it has to happen with that, the soil, the nutrients that come from the soil in order for that to grow.
And those are systems in the soil.
Those are systems in the soil as well too. And I said a dark place it happens. You said an obscure place, but that's often what it starts out as. Like you're just going, you're planting, right? Which is the next part, the till it, and then the actual planting of the seed. you're actually planting, you're planting your vision, right? You're planting your talent, you're planting, and you're moving forward. So we have some things that we wanted to say with the seed part, the seed of the
Yeah.
strategy.
So the seed of the strategy. So there's the seed of strategy, then the seed of consistency, and then the seed of discipline. Now, when we talk about seed of strategy, you got to have a strategy. If otherwise, you're just out here throwing stuff out there, hoping it lands into something that'll work. We're not doing this hoping it'll land into something that'll work. We want to give it the solid, sound chance that is proven by those strategies. Also, it's the seed of consistency. You know, the seed of consistency really is doing the right things. It's the ongoing, continuous right actions. And then there's also the seed of discipline. And the seed of discipline means, you know what? I'm going to show up faithfully. I'm going to show up consistently. And really, that seed of discipline is all about self-control. Because I can assure you, as you all well know, everybody I'm sure is old enough to know that there are times where you feel like, I don't want to do it anymore. I just feel like giving up. Those are the times where you have to commit and commit again to yourself, to each other. No, I'm going to show up and do this. And so the seed of discipline is very important.
Yes. So those are the two phases of the seeding season. You know, the Bible talks about it as seed time, harvest, right? And a lot of times we'll try to say, okay, seed time, now harvest, right? But it's actually seed and then time, and then harvest. And so let's talk about that sliver. We'll call it a sliver, but that can really depend on where you are, what you're planting, and how consistent you're watering and all the other things and that go on during this time piece. But let's talk about this time. And what we did is we created an acronym for you all, so just to make it easier to remember as well, as we're going through this time, because oftentimes during the time piece is when people want to give up and want to throw in the towel. They're like, well, what's going on? Right? As me as a little girl looking at the dirt, and I know I planted a seed in there, and I'm like, where is it? The next day, nothing. Where is it? The next day, nothing. Where is it? You have to keep watering, right? And making sure that the sunlight is getting to it, making sure the nutrients are getting to it.
Let me say this as you go into that, as you build, listen, yes, we talk about collapsing time and so forth, but even still, everything takes time. Now, you don't want it to take any more time than necessary, but it still takes time.
Yeah. There's a lot that happens on the inside for us too. It's not just an external thing, it's an internal thing that happens with us. So time. So the T, let's just call it what it is, time. It's just duration going on, just enduring that space. Okay. So making sure that we're clear and we're not getting stuck on this overnight type of harvest mentality, because all that does is frustrating and doesn't grow us. So it does take time. But during that time, there are things that do happen that we want to be aware of, and we want to make sure that we're staying the course during this time. So during this time, the I is intentional. We have to be intentional about taking those steps forward. We have to be intentional about being consistent and being strategic with that, and making sure that we're intentional with our discipline as well. And that's a day in, day out thing, making sure that that's happening. The M is making room. Do you remember when I said earlier, I did something that I probably wasn't supposed to do as during the little science project. And I wanted to see what was going on with the seed and my science project as an elementary school girl. And I went through the dirt to see, okay, where's the seed? I know I planted it in here. Well, how much longer do I need to wait? And as I dug my little fingers through the soil and the styrofoam, the white styrofoam cup, I began to feel it with my fingertips, like, oh, okay, there it is. And I kept moving the soil out of the way so I can see. I know I put this seed in here. Now, where is it? Why are you not growing yet? You know, a few days go by. I don't see anything. I didn't see a plant coming out just yet. But what I did see was that seed, the coat over the seed called the seed coat, it began to loosen. It was loosening up. And as I looked a little closer, I could see like a tiny piece of something growing, kind of coming out of the tip of the seed. Well, in order for that little tip to come through, the seed had to make room. It had to expand because there was something growing, like life was there, but it took time. And during that time, even though I couldn't see what was going on because the seed was in the dirt, the seed was in the soil, but the seed was still growing. And the first part of growth is always going to be internal, real growth.
And it doesn't look like it's growing, but it is growing. It's so funny because I did that too, as you were saying that. Yeah. And I remember my teacher said, she said to me, she said, you're going to disturb the process.
Ooh.
And sometimes we could end up disturbing the process due to impatience. But I mean, I'm glad you saw that. but you didn't have to do that to know that that was happening. There's been enough research. There's been enough people who have gone before you
But I
to
wanted
say,
to make sure.
but you wanted to see
I
for
want to
yourself.
see it for myself.
I know.
I want to be like, wait, I know I put a seed in here. Are you growing or not? Like, what are you doing down there? And
Right.
how long is it going to be? You know, as a kid, well, how much longer? How many more days? The teacher
Mhm.
keeps saying it's coming soon, whatever. So yeah, I saw that.
Mhm.
And I did, disrupt it. I don't
Mhm.
know. I remember seeing something grow after that. I don't know if it was the same seed or not, but it was, I'm sure I slowed the process down with that. But I just want to say that M in time is really about making room for where you're going, making room, like you're actually envisioning that, you're preparing, you're making space for it, you are seeing that, and you are doing what you need to do today to position yourself to be there. Many times we continue on in the same routine as we have been, not realizing that same routine will not get us the new results. It will only get us the old results. So just really making room, what things you need to change in your discipline and the time that you're putting into your business, even the time that you're putting into your marriage. Like, what types of changes need to be made that you can make today, right? Like, what do you have control over? We don't have control over everything or even a whole lot, but the things that we do have control over, we want to make room for where we're going and where we're growing. Okay, that's the M. E is expect, and that ties directly into the M, which is make room. Your expectation is critical.
Yeah, because
Expectation is key.
yeah, because that expectation really deals with your thoughts, your mind, your heart. It engages your emotions. I want to say this, if I can, about expectation, because I was giving some thought to this. Expectation does not dictate the outcome, but it does dictate our behavior in the process. And so how you kept coming back looking, it was because you were expecting the system to work.
Faster.
You were right, but you still were expecting it to work. And so I say this, a lot of times through the elongation of time, through the stretching out, through the duration of time, our expectation can diminish. We want to encourage you, don't let your expectation diminish. Keep looking and expecting it to grow if you're doing those strategic things that we talked about. And let me say this, your expectation, it anchors your attitude. And while you're building, the attitude matters. As you're thinking about life and your marriage and you are working, it's your attitude absolutely matters. And here's what also the expectation does. It defines the win. See, if I don't know what it is I'm to expect, how will I ever know if I'm successful? And if you don't have that, then you'll start chasing other people's definition of a win, of a success. And if you're chasing other people's definition of a success, you'll never actually be successful because it's not yours. You know what I'm saying? And the fact of the matter, a lot of people don't even know what their definition of success is. And so if theirs is moving, if their target is moving, your target's moving.
Yeah, and the fulfillment is not there.
The fulfillment is not there. Yeah.
Oof,
and
that's loaded.
Yeah, that's
a whole nother episode.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, that's time. That's a TIME. And then we went over the seeding season, the time, and then the harvest season. The harvest season, let's talk about that real quick. That's what many people expect to happen, right away or very quickly. And oftentimes in less time than it actually takes for that seed coat to grow and to loosen up. So for harvest, we're talking about really about the execution piece of it.
Absolutely. I remember years ago, in the earlier years of us building our business, you said something I've never forgotten. It's so true. You said,
what'd I say?
Harvest is work.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think a lot of times people think or realize harvest is work. Yes. And so a lot of times what happens is, just even in a natural sense, right? If it's like harvest season for an apple orchid, they ain't gonna get off the tree themselves.
They ain't gonna go into the basket.
Somebody's got to take the basket and go out there and pick those things, right? And so harvest season is work. And there's a sort of sorting that happens when you're harvesting. And so yes, it's execution, but it's really gathering time. It's gathering strategy. Yeah. And so it's the work, as you're thinking about this as you two are building out that business, if you think about it this way, it's the work that delivers value so you can receive the reward. So you have to deliver value to receive what that is harvesting.
And I want to say this one time, I remember when it really hit me when I told you that I said harvesting is work. In my staffing firm, we landed a huge contract. I mean, I was like, oh, is this what I've been praying for? And I was so like overwhelmed, but in a good way. But
The harvesting was probably
it,
harder than
the
the seeding.
harvesting was harder than the seeding, y'all. I had to hire friends and fly them out, people that I trusted. Hey guys, people that I trusted, because I needed to make sure I had people on my team that, number one, that I trusted, right, and I could train you to do whatever I need you to do. But I was like flying friends out, and hey, you can come stay with us for this while I have this. I just need to get the right people in place,
Mhm.
and I knew that if I had the right people, we would be all right. Right. But when I tell you, even with that, it was so much work. I was like, this is a lot. But what it taught me was that in order to have or to receive what I was believing for,
Mhm.
I had to have the capacity to hold it. I had to have the capacity to withhold the blessing. Otherwise, it would become a burden.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the systems are so important. This is why the seed. I know you want to say something.
Yep.
I
Go
can
ahead. Go
feel
ahead.
you
Go
trying
ahead.
to
Go
say
ahead. Go
something.
ahead.
So this is why this is why it's so important. Why the seeding season is critical with those two phases that we shared. And then the time piece that we shared with you is also uber critical. So by the time it does come to harvest, that at least you're in better position to receive the harvest,
Yeah.
right? Many of us are not even prepared for the things that we've been praying for. We don't even have the capacity yet because we're still in the seeding season. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like in a natural sense, right? If you're going out and you're harvesting apples or peaches or whatever, the basket is bigger than the hand. The hand only has so much capacity,
Ooh.
but the basket increases the capacity.
What?
This is why you had to hire people.
This is why I had to hire
Because
people.
your friends and those that you hired are like the baskets.
Yeah.
And do you know that the harvest was not only a blessing to your hand,
listen,
but it was a blessing to
for
the
whole
hands of
family.
other people?
The whole family came out. I was like, we're gonna put everybody. We hired everybody. Do you hear me? All the people I know, I trust. I was like, we need all hands on deck, and that was required because our hands were not big enough.
If you would have tried to harvest that with your own hands,
Listen,
not only would you have wasted harvest because you couldn't meet the demand,
and that's what I was praying for the harvest.
But
I would have wasted it.
But because it's more blessed to give than it is to receive,
Listen,
it was a bigger blessing to be a blessing to those who helped you to harvest.
Yes. Let me tell you, there were so many blessings on top of like understanding what was required of now. You remember that season?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoo, we're growing, we're expanding. Like that seed coat that I was talking about. I was like, the seed coat is coming off, and the branch, like the whole, what I was gonna say the branch, but the whole, what do you call it, the plant? It was
The
like
whole stalk.
Yeah, the whole stalk. It was like sprouting up. And see, somebody would have looked at me in our business and said, "Oh, this just happened overnight. Like, how did you?" But they didn't see. They didn't see all the
years
the
of refining and patience.
They didn't see all the systems that we were preparing and putting together before that even happened. So that was just a quick example of the harvest time. And that's when I said to you, harvesting is work. Now I get it. Now I have to make sure that we have things in place. One thing I want to say before we hop off is that you can absolutely be in more than one of these phases at the same time.
That's right.
You can be sowing seeds. Like as you build, you may start off with one season, like the seeding season, and then it goes into the time, and you continue to work through the timepiece, and then it goes into the harvest season. While you're doing that, what you're doing is you're building momentum. Okay, so as you build momentum in that and you start to receive like the baby steps and baby prizes, I would say, or baby harvest, if you will. It's not like the big harvest, but it's some wins. You want to celebrate those. As you continue to celebrate those, acknowledge those become closer and closer in between time, like less and less time separates those, and they begin to back up against each other, win after win after win. But it takes time to get that rhythm down and consistency. And so I was just, admonish everyone to celebrate those baby steps, celebrate those wins, and don't brush them off and say, well, it's not what we wanted. We didn't meet the goal. But you got something. You learned something from this, and you're going to apply that, and you're going to be even better the next go round. So just make sure your mindset is right as you go into this week, as you go into the next day, as you prepare for whatever season that you're in, or seasons or phases of this that you're in, because you can be receiving harvest and at the same time you're sowing seed as you reinvest back into the business, and you reinvest the seeds, and you till the new ground, right? Because there's new levels to this, and you continue to till, you continue to sow, you continue to plant. That time goes by, and it gets to be this cycle, this process that just happens as you continue to learn and go through that, so and grow through that. So we hope that this little conversation here has been definitely encouraging to you, because we understand, we get it, and we want to make sure that we share that encouragement tonight.
Yeah, and I want to say this, if I can just add this piece in there.
Mm.
Listen, any builder, any farmer who is of a kingdom mindset, we can't talk about dirt and seed and so on and so forth without really giving honor to God in this way. And let me just say this: the world would say, or those outside of this understanding would say, trust the process. And I get why that's said, but we want to encourage you all, trust God in the process. Not one of us controls the rain. Not one of us controls the sun. We can control what we do, but beyond that, if the rain doesn't fall and the sun doesn't shine,
and he don't put his hand on it,
and he doesn't put his hand on it, then whatever we're building will not grow. And so we want to encourage you, trust God as you two are building.
Oh, we hope this episode, this pop-up episode,
of
the Marriedpreneur Life podcast has been super encouraging for you all. We're going to be airing this soon. We will be sharing the next section or segment on the podcast, which is the Enjoying the Journey Together, where we're going to be giving actionable steps and strategies to put in place. So in the meantime, we hope that this has been helpful for you all. And until next time, yes, I see this. So good. Y'all preaching in the comments over here.
Keep living purposefully
and powerfully
and profitably in sync.
All right. God bless.